Loneliness in the digital age is a silent predator. It doesn't stalk you in dark alleys. It waits patiently in the glowing blue light of your smartphone screen, hiding behind the mask of a friendly notification. For David, a 35-year-old accountant living in the suburbs of Chicago, life had become a repetitive cycle of spreadsheets, microwave dinners, and the deafening silence of an empty apartment. That Tuesday night was no different. Outside, the rain was hammering against the window pane, creating a rhythm that matched the ticking of the clock on the wall. Seeking a fleeting connection, David unlocked his phone and opened a popular dating app. He wasn't looking for trouble. He was just looking for a conversation. Then it happened. A notification popped up. It's a match. Her name was Emily. Her profile said she was 24 years old, a nursing student who loved jazz music and old movies. The photos seemed innocent enough. A smiling girl in a park, a selfie with a cat, a shot of a coffee cup. David felt a rush of dopamine, that deceptive chemical that blinds us to red flags. He typed a simple hello. The reply came instantly. They talked for hours. The conversation was engaging, surprisingly deep, and disarmingly warm. She asked about his day, his dreams, his favorite books. For the first time in months, David felt seen. He felt important. But David didn't know that Emily wasn't a nursing student. Emily wasn't even in Chicago. He was chatting with a script, a phantom designed to lower his defenses. He went to sleep that night with a smile on his face, unaware that he had just handed the keys of his life to a ruthless criminal organization. The trap was set, the bait was taken, and the steel jaws were about to snap shut. Morning light usually brings clarity, but for David, the next morning brought pure, unadulterated terror. He was in his kitchen, the smell of fresh coffee filling the air when his phone rang. The screen displayed unknown caller. Assuming it was a work client or a delivery update, he swiped to answer. "Hello?" he said, his voice groggy with sleep. He expected a greeting. Instead, he was met with a wall of sonic violence. A deep, aggressive male voice roared through the speaker, shattering the morning peace. "You think you can mess with my daughter and get away with it? You sick pervert." David froze. The coffee mug slipped from his trembling fingers, shattering on the tiled floor, hot liquid splashing everywhere. "Who is this?" David stammered, his heart hammering against his ribs like a trapped bird. "I'm Emily's father," the voice screamed. "She is 17 years old. 17! Do you hear me? You've been soliciting a minor. I found the messages. I saw the pictures. I smashed her phone, and she is in her room crying her eyes out because of you." David's world spun. The blood drained from his face. "But her profile said 24, he whispered, his throat dry. The man on the other end didn't care for explanations. "I don't care what you thought. The law doesn't care. I have the police on the other line right now. I'm pressing charges. You're going to jail for statutory rape. Your face will be on every news channel. You'll be on the sex offender registry for the rest of your miserable life." The threat was specific, visceral, and terrifying. It bypassed David's logic center and struck directly at his primal fear. The shame, the potential loss of his job, his reputation, his freedom, it all flashed before his eyes in a horrifying montage. He was no longer a man. He was prey. Silence followed the angry father's call, but it was a heavy, suffocating silence. David paced around his living room, his hands shaking uncontrollably. He was hyperventilating, his mind racing through worst-case scenarios. 5 minutes later, calculated timing to let the panic set in, The phone rang again. This time, the voice was different. It was calm, professional, authoritative, yet seemingly sympathetic. "Good morning, Mr. David. My name is James Mitchell. I am the attorney representing Emily's family," the voice said smoothly. It was the classic good cop routine. "Listen, my client is furious. He is currently filling out the paperwork to have you arrested. However," the lawyer paused, letting the word hang in the air like a lifeline, "I am trying to calm him down. We are looking at a very serious felony charge here, David. Solicitation of a minor carries a mandatory minimum sentence of 15 years in this state." David felt like he was drowning, and this man was holding a raft. "Please, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know," David pleaded. The lawyer sighed, sounding weary. "I believe you, David. You sound like a decent man who made a mistake. The family doesn't want a public scandal either. They want to protect the girl's identity. I've managed to convince the father to settle this via a civil compromise. If you can cover the cost of the smashed iPhone 15 and the therapy sessions for the girl, they will agree to sign a non-disclosure agreement and drop all charges. The total amount is $4,800. If you transfer this immediately, this nightmare ends right now. No police, no jail, no record." It sounded perfect. Too perfect. It was the lifeline David desperate wanted, but it came with a price tag. David rushed to his desk, grabbing his wallet. His credit card was in his hand. $4,800 was a lot of money, most of his savings, but compared to 15 years in prison, compared to being branded a predator, it seemed like a bargain. The lawyer stayed on the line, applying gentle but constant pressure. "David, are you there? The father is getting impatient. I can't hold him back forever. We need to process this transfer within the next 10 minutes before the police report is filed." David opened his banking app. His thumb hovered over the transfer button. Sweat dripped from his forehead onto the screen. But then a small, quiet voice in the back of his mind spoke up. It was a memory. A video he had watched on a channel called Experience Speaks weeks ago. The video had warned about urgency. "Scammers always create a false sense of urgency," the narrator had said. "They don't let you think." David paused. He looked at the phone. Why would a lawyer call him directly? Why would a furious father want money instead of justice? The fear was still there, gripping his stomach, but a spark of skepticism began to burn through the fog of panic. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his shaking hands. He remembered the checklist, the legal facts. If this was real, the lawyer shouldn't be afraid of questions. If this was real, the law would work a certain way. David decided to test the waters. He wasn't going to be a victim anymore. He was going to be a detective. David sat up straight in his chair. The transformation was subtle but profound. He switched the phone to speaker mode and grabbed a pen and paper. "Mr. Mitchell," David said, his voice surprisingly steady, cutting through the lawyer's monologue. "I am ready to cooperate. But before I authorize a transaction of this magnitude, I need to verify your credentials for my own bank's security protocols." The line went silent for a second. "Excuse me?" the lawyer asked, a hint of irritation creeping into his smooth persona. David pressed on, following the script he remembered. "It's a standard procedure. Which state bar association are you registered with? And what is your bar license number? I am currently on the official state bar website, and I need to input your number to verify your license before I send any funds." The scammer on the other end wasn't expecting this. He stumbled. I am with the New York bar. My number is in my office files. I don't have it memorized right now." Look, do you want to stay out of jail or play detective? David didn't flinch. He recognized the deflection. A real lawyer knows their bar number like they know their own social security number. It is their badge of office. That is strange, Mr. Mitchell, David replied coldly. You are threatening me with a felony charge, yet you cannot provide your license number? That is a very serious professional oversight. Sensing the scammer's hesitation, David launched his final devastating attack. He didn't give the fake lawyer time to recover. Furthermore, Mr. Mitchell, David continued, his voice growing stronger with every word, I have been looking up the statutes regarding solicitation of a minor. Under both federal and state laws, this offense is classified as a felony. Felonies are crimes against the state. They are subject to mandatory public prosecution. There is no such thing as a civil compromise for a statutory rape charge. You cannot pay money to make a felony go away. That is called bribery, and it is a federal crime in itself. The voice on the other end was now openly hostile. You listen to me, you little... David cut him off. No, you listen. If this alleged crime actually happened, there would be a police investigation. Which police department is handling the case? Give me the police report number or the case number. I will call the detective directly to turn myself in. The scammer knew the game was up. His script had been shredded by logic and legal facts. There was no father, there was no Emily, and there was no lawyer. Just a criminal in a call center realizing he had picked the wrong target. David delivered the final blow. I have recorded this conversation. I am currently reporting this number and your voice recording to the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center, IC3. Have a nice day. Click. The line went dead. The threat evaporated instantly. The monster in the phone was nothing more than a ghost. David sat back in his chair, a wave of relief washing over him. The silence in the apartment was no longer terrifying. It was peaceful. He hadn't lost his savings. He hadn't lost his dignity. He had won. But he knew that thousands of others weren't as lucky. Every day, innocent people panic and pay, terrorized by these digital actors. This story serves as a shield for you. Remember David's defense. If you ever receive a call claiming you are in legal trouble and demanding money, first, stop, breathe. Panic is their weapon. Calmness is your shield. Second, verify. Ask for the attorney's bar number. Ask for the police case number. A legitimate authority will never refuse this information. Third, know the law. You cannot pay your way out of a felony charge. Any request for money to drop criminal charges is extortion, plain and simple. And finally, report. Hang up and report the number to the authorities. The digital world is full of shadows, but knowledge is the light that disperses them. Don't let them play with your emotions. Don't let them threaten your peace. Be like David. Ask the hard questions. This is Experience Speaks. Stay safe, stay alert, and never get scammed.